going on, drivers and fellow CB enthusiasts? It's Jay Rich back again with another one, and today we're talking about CB tuning or antenna tuning. Which one are you wanting? But before we get too far into this video, if you would, go on ahead and hit that subscribe right down there in the corner. Like, share, comment is always much appreciated. Lets me know that you want to see more of this content. All right, now that that's out of the way, I see questions and I get questions a lot about, I need my CB tuned because my antenna light keeps coming on. That's two very different things there. Your CB tuning is not antenna tuning. CB tuning goes much deeper. There are different, I guess you might say, levels of tuning. You know, there might be your basic, just make it louder, give it more power, align the channels. There's just so many different things that can be done to a good bit of radios out there that's on the market today. Now, if you're the beginner and you're watching my channel and you're like, well, how do I tune a CB? How do I do that? And there's a few things. If you don't have the proper tools, the proper equipment, the understanding of what you're doing, CB tuning's not for you. Not yet, because it's hard to go into a radio and just tweak this and turn that. And now, you need things like an oscilloscope and something to read the power you're putting out to make sure you're not just splattering across all these channels. I myself am not a CB tech. I take my radios to people that I know what they're doing. Trust me, I don't go to the guy that's at the pilot in his van talking about $20 tune-ups. We've all heard them out there on the radio. Man, you bring me your radio $20 cash and I'll bump and pump that CB up, and I give you 100 watts on the Cobra radio. I give you 1,000 watts on the Striker. No, stay away from that guy. Stay away from that guy. Don't, stop. Go to a reputable CB shop in your area, or maybe on your route or something like that. There are plenty of CB shops that you can ship your radio to. They'll do whatever needs to be done and ship it back to you at a fair price. So when you're looking into your CB radio right here, and you want that guy, he's got his golden screwdriver, and he's gonna go in here, right here. Hang on, let me make sure the camera's right. He's gonna come in here. That's what he's gonna do. All with the little golden screwdriver. Stay away from that dude. So with that out of the way, let's stay away from that guy. They can destroy your radio beyond repair. Now, they're not going to take a hammer and a screwdriver and beat it all up, but they can do severe internal damage to your radio that a good tech's going to say, look, it's going to take too much. You just need to buy a new radio. Let's avoid those mistakes. So now, let's move on to antenna tuning, okay? Too many of you rely on this meter, on this radio, any radio. I never, ever rely on just this meter on the radio. So let's move on to what else you could use, or what a CB shop might use to tune your antenna. Okay, here are three examples. This is an old Radio Shack, see, field strength and SWR tester. This will measure your field strength, your basic power, your SWR. The Dozy is just a little more advanced. It's got different power levels, SWR and modulation. So here you're talking maybe $25. Here you're moving up to the $100, $150 range. And then you're moving on to the antenna analyzer. With these two, you need the radio. With this one, you do not need the radio. You just need the coax and the antenna. This is stepping up, and probably 98% of guys are never going to get this far into needing something like this. People that do this a lot, like myself and many others, we prefer to have this equipment that keeps us from going back and forth up to a CB shop so much. But this right here tells you a lot about the system. However, this does not measure power whatsoever. You cannot run power through this. So if you're looking for something to show you power, this is not it. Something like this dozy will do that for you. Another thing that I hear a lot is somebody says, okay, I think I want X radio and I want an antenna to match. Well, the antenna and the radio, it really doesn't care about each other. They really don't care. The only instance that the radio or the antenna cares is in power level. Now, as far as power level goes, you know, there's a lot of people, they think, well, man, this antenna right here, it holds 10,000 watts or 20,000 watts. Are you pushing anywhere near that? Well, most of us are not. So if you just got a basic Cobra 29, almost any antenna will do. I always say that the antenna is more about the vehicle and the location on that vehicle. That's my opinion. Somebody's going to argue about it, whatever. The radio and the antenna does not care. The only time it cares is when you're trying to introduce too much power into the radio. Take, for instance, this is a Francis hot rod 4-foot fiberglass antenna. Now, this antenna is only rated at 150 watts. What happens to it above that, I'm not sure. Does it burst into flames or melt or what? I have no idea. I ain't trying it. I'm not going to try it. I'm not going to burn down anything. But if you were running, say, a Ranger X9, you would not want this antenna because that is pushing the limits of this antenna. Now, the Wilson 2000 antenna, it's a 2,000 watt antenna. It can handle most anything you can throw at it till you start getting into big power. Now, some important things to note when you're tuning your antenna is how to tune that specific antenna, because some antennas are different. Let's take, for instance, the Wilson 2000. All right, so looking at the Wilson 2000, you have, well, what were 2 set screws here. Now there's only one because I have lost one. These antennas been kicking around a long time, and with these antennas you'll get an Allen wrench and you're basically gonna loosen up. And while I'm tuning, I'll usually loosen one up a good bit, then the other one you want to give it just a snug. All right, then once I'm done, I'll go on ahead and tighten them down. You just want just a little more than snug. You don't want to put no ugga-duggas on the damn thing, because then you end up like me, missing a set screw. But you'll just come in here and loosen. You'll take the whip, you'll slide it up, or you'll bring it down. Okay? If you're all the way down and you need to go down more, you'll take the whip out and you'll start trimming about 1/4 inch at a time off the antenna until you get in that SWR range that you need to be. So just give that a snug back down. Go and check your reading again. Let's take a look at a couple other styles of antennas. Okay, once again, with the Wilson 2000 antenna, most all your whip antennas are going to be like this. They're going to have 1 or 2 set screws to loosen up and adjust the stainless whip. Let's take a look at some fiberglass antennas. Here you have the Francis hot rod. This has a cap on it, and this shaft is complete fiberglass with the copper conductor running down inside the center. It's all encased in fiberglass. And these antennas generally need no tuning. If you're using 18 to 19 feet of coax, these antennas are generally spot on or close enough to not even matter. But if you did need to trim this antenna down, what you would do is remove the cap, use a pair of bolt cutters or something to cut a 1/4 inch off of that antenna, put the cap back on. Let's look at the skip shooter antenna. I really like these antennas for a fiberglass antenna. However, whip antennas do receive better, but as you see, the skip shooter has a nail and a set screw for the adjustment. And what you can do with these antennas is, if you have, say, a old Firestik, you can take the cap off the Firestik and put it onto the skip shooter, just to keep rust and corrosion from going on here at this nail. Now with the Firestik 2, the Firestik 2 is the tunable tip version of Firestik. So when you take this cap off, you will have this screw, and you will loosen that. Then you can adjust this top screw up and down. And then tighten that back up. And when you go back to recheck your SWR on the Firestik 2, it is important to put this cap back on. That cap needs to be on there, or your readings are going to be way off, farther off than when you started, and you're going to be wondering what the heck's going on. So the Firestik 2, always put the cap back on. Generally, any antenna that comes with a cap, put the cap back on when you're tuning that antenna. Okay, so I have a Striker SR-A10 mag mount on top of my vehicle, and I've got it plugged into this Rig Expert A55 zoom. And what we're looking at here is that we are looking at the different channels. Okay, this right here where you see the 148, that is going to be your channel 1. 27405 at a 1.7 is going to be channel 40, and then 27185 is going to be channel 19. Now you're seeing that, and what this tells us is that our SWR is higher on channel 1 than it is on channel 40. So what do we need to do to correct that? Okay, if your SWR is higher on channel 1, your antenna is too short. Your antenna needs to be longer. You need to make that antenna taller. Vice versa. If on channel 40 your SWR is higher, your antenna is too tall. You have to bring that antenna down some. So I'm going to set this here, and I am going to, let me get the camera right, and nope, I'm not going to smash my SWR meter or my antenna analyzer. We're not going to do that. So I want you to watch these numbers as I tune the antenna. So we went from a 144 on channel 1 to a 135, and channel 40 went up from 117 to 128. 19, we're at a 116. That's great. So I can adjust just a little more and get it near perfect. However, this is very close and it's very, very acceptable. But let me go on ahead and take the antenna the other way and get it too tall. Now that is maxed out. Now you see how we've basically flip-flopped. Now our channel 1 is at a 150, way too high. Channel 19 is off, channel 1 is off. So you see right there how that tuning works. I went up with the antenna, we got really close, and then I went to the extreme and went way up with the antenna, and now we're way off. Now, as you see, I have that mag mount sitting right there, and it's just sitting there just for these demonstration purposes. And also, when you're setting your SWR on your antenna, you want to make sure you're out in wide open spaces. You don't want to be inside a building or under a metal awning, even nowhere near your house or trees or power lines, things like that. You want wide open spaces. I prefer like a Walmart parking lot or maybe a school parking lot where you just have big wide open spaces. Let that antenna breathe a little bit and let it get some clear air to it. Now you say, I've gone up as far as I can with my antenna and my SWRs are still way out, or I've gone so far low and I've cut inches and inches off of the antenna to try to get the SWRs right, and it's just not working. Well, there's other factors that you have to go into. There is the location on the vehicle, which I go over in a video that I'm leaving down in the description. Check that out. It's the CB antenna tuning do's and don'ts. Some of the problems you might have there is you don't have sufficient ground to your antenna. I've got this little crude setup right here that I show you in that video I'm talking about down in the description, and I explain to you why this is wrong, and that this is for mock-up purposes only and for the purposes of this video only. So you can have bad grounds, you could just have the antenna mounted in the wrong spot. The antenna itself may just be too short for what you're doing. The antenna could be too long for what you're doing. A lot of these antenna companies like Wilson and Stryker, their coils are tuned to have a specific length, whip, or stinger on top of them. Now those lengths, it's not exact. It's not exact. That's why you tune the SWR and move that antenna up and down a little to find its happy place. If you're finding that you're needing to get that antenna way higher or way shorter, then chances are you either have bad ground or your antenna is just not in a happy place. It's not in a happy spot on the vehicle, and it may need to be moved somewhere else. So there we have it. CB tuning versus antenna tuning. Know what you're asking for. Don't spend excess money, and don't just buy an antenna because, well, I got a Stryker radio, so I need a Stryker antenna. It doesn't work like that. So I hope I cleared up some of those misconceptions for you. In the meantime, go on ahead and watch that video of the CB antenna do's and don'ts. Watch a playlist and subscribe. I'm Jay Rich. I appreciate you guys watching. Y'all keep your knees in the breeze and the shiny side up. We'll be seeing you.